this is Joe again with another video. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to be doing a preview of the National League playoffs. Because the National League playoffs are pretty much set for the most part. And of course, as you can tell from behind me, I'm not only a big baseball fan, but also a big Mets fan as well. So I figured to do a video for the National League playoffs. Because I'm going to divide it in half. Eventually, maybe hopefully by the end of this week, I'll do a video. Maybe do a video of the American League playoffs as well. I'm not going to do both in one shot because the American League playoffs are not 100% set yet, but the National League is pretty much set now as it is. The only thing that's in question in the National League playoffs is the seeding and who going to have home field advantage and so forth. So I'm going to get started with the National League for this video. Of course, the National League, the biggest surprise is, of course, that the New York Mets pretty much came out of nowhere, and they ended up winning the National League Eastern Division for 2015, first time in 9 years. And when they got to a big lead, a 9.5 game lead at one point, I thought, as not a lot of Mets fans did, that they were going to blow the lead again for the third time in less than 10 years. Because they did it in 2007, they had a 7.5 game lead with 17 games left to play in the 2007 season. They blew that. And the very next year, they also had about a 4 or 5 game lead with about like 10 to play, and they blew that lead. So here we go again. The Mets have 9.5 game lead in the Nationals, and I figured, oh god, they're going to blow it again. I was so convinced they were going to blow it that I still didn't believe that the Mets were going to win the division, even though that the Nationals been sticking up the joint for a good chunk of the year, and that's what kept the Mets relatively close to first place. Even though for the most part, most of the season, the Mets have been god awful. Let me put it this way: they couldn't hit water; they fell out of a boat. I mean, that's how bad the hitting was. The pitching carried them for pretty much the whole year, but they couldn't go in that hitting. And then they made some trades by the trade deadline. Couldn't get Cespedes from Detroit. And he was hitting like crazy when he first came to the Mets. But now the last couple of weeks cooled off a bit. But he was hitting home runs like crazy. Pretty much for the whole month of August, he was hitting home runs like crazy, and they carried the Mets. And the two things that helped the Mets were they swept the Nationals at Citi Field, and then they went. I think like a 3 or 4 game series. Swept the Nationals here, which creates a tie in the East for first place. And then the Mets went down to Washington, and they swept the Nationals in Washington as well. So those two sweeps really helped the Mets get into first place and to hold that lead. The other thing that happened is, of course, the Nationals were awful the whole year long, for the most part, and so that's what caused the Mets to, win the division. And of course, I'm doing this a day after the infamous incident between Bryce Harper and John Papelbon when they got into a fight, and Papelbon actually had his hands on Bryce Harper's throat. And that video is on YouTube, so if you want to check that out, you can check it on YouTube. So it looks like in the first round, in the National League playoffs, or the National League Division Series as it's called, the Mets are going to be playing the Dodgers. Now this is going to be the third time in playoff history, second time in the Division Series, that the Mets are going to be playing the Dodgers in the playoffs. So of course the first time was back in 1988, and the Mets beat the Dodgers. Technically they had 12 games scheduled that season, but 12th game was rained out, so they only played 11 games that in 1988. And the Mets beat the Dodgers 10 out of 11, and the Dodgers beat the Mets in the playoffs. And then, about 18 years later, in 2006, the Mets got the revenge of the Dodgers, and they swept the Dodgers 3 straight in the playoffs. So this is actually going to be the rubber match. in the playoffs. And now the question is for that series is of course who's going to have the home field advantage. And as of I'm taping this video, the Mets have about like a game and a half lead, two games up in the win column because they're tying the loss column actually. And if it does end up coming down to a tie on the last day of the season, both the Mets and Dodgers are tied after the games on the last game of the regular season. The Mets may have home field. Because the Mets and Dodgers played 7 games against each other in 2015, and the Mets won four out of the 7. So it's pretty much even. If it's 4 out of 7, the Mets are 4-3 against the Dodgers. It means it's pretty much even. You don't have that disparity that you had in 1988 when the Mets beat the Dodgers 10 out of 11. So it's kind of good. You don't have that. Uh, the law of averages will even out in the playoffs. I don't think you're going to have that because the teams are too evenly matched up. Of course, the thing that will beat the Mets is, of course, 2 pitches. Usually before then, the times the Mets have lost in the playoffs is usually like 1 pitcher that beats them, or 1 hitter that beats them. This particular time is going to be 2 pitches that could possibly beat the Mets. That's Kershaw and Greinke. And if Greinke does not get the Cy Young Award this year, it's going to be a disgrace. Anyway, they're going to have them. The reason why the Mets want to have here the first 2 games is that we're going to have to wait for the Shadows, a late afternoon game in Los Angeles. That's why they want to have the 2 games here, so that way you don't have to wait for the Shadows with those 2 guys going. And the Mets have about 4 or 5 guys that can match up with Greinke and Kershaw. As a matter of fact, the last time they played the Dodgers, I think Greinke and Kershaw was pretty 2 out of the 3 games, and the Mets won 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles. So, I think that was the last series actually played was the Mets beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3 in LA, and at the time it wasn't a time when the Mets were not hitting well. So everybody expected the Mets would get the butts kicked because not only did they play the Dodgers, they also played the Giants right after that, and expected to be a disaster. The Mets won 4 out of 6 games played on that road trip. So, of course, when the playoffs start, everything eventually will balance out. So, of course, the rest of the playoffs, of course, the Cardinals are going to have the home field advantage for the whole playoffs. So they have the best record in the whole National League. The only thing they're not going to have the home field advantage in, or any National League team, is in the World Series because they're doing a stupid idiotic thing in the All-Star game when the league that wins the All-Star game has home field. So the American League team won the All-Star game this year. So they're going to have the All-Star game. They're going to have the home field advantage in the American League, whoever the American League champion is. But for the National League, the Cardinals will have the home field advantage for the whole playoffs. Now the question is who the Cardinals are going to be playing, because they're going to be playing the wild card team, and of course the play-in game, which of course is the big question of who's going to have the one game playoff between the Cubs and the Pirates. Of course, everybody knows for a little movie called Back to the Future Part 2, everybody wants the stupid Cubs to be in the World Series this year, or expect the Cubs to be in the World Series this year. Not going to happen, folks. It's never going to happen. The Cubs haven't been in the World Series in 70 years. It's going to be another 70 years before the Cubs even get to the World Series, okay? So they're not going to get. That's because they had that scene in the lousy movie Back to the Future Part 2, when the Cubs were in the World Series in 2015 against Florida. Florida is not even going to be there's not going to be a Florida team in the playoffs or in the World Series this year. But they are not going to win. They're going to get knocked off by somebody. They're either going to get knocked off by the Cardinals, or they're going to get knocked off by the Pirates in the wild card game, or they're going to get knocked off by the Dodgers or the Mets. Let's don't forget this. If the Mets do happen to advance in the playoffs, which I don't expect they will, but if they do happen to advance, And if they do happen to play the Cubs or the Pirates, look out. Because you're going to have the law of averages thing going on in that series. Because the Cubs and the Pirates combined in 2015 are 13-0 against the Mets. They haven't lost out one game in 2015 against the Mets at all. So, so you're going to have the law of averages thing. I mean, it'd be, I think the Pirates being like uh, seven games out of seven, and the Cubs won all 6 games against the Mets. So you're going to have uh, a little bit of revenge because the Mets were not playing well. When they played the Cubs and the Pirates, I think it was like before the trade deadline. So or just before the trade deadline. So you're going to have a different. They're going to be playing a totally different team than they played when they won all those games in a row. So you're going to have a whole different thing. And I do hope that the Mets would get lucky enough to advance. Uh, but I don't think so because the teams in the National League are so much better than in the American League. The American League teams all suck this year. But I expect that it's either going to be the Pirates, the Cardinals, or the Dodgers getting to the World Series. I don't expect the Mets to get there. I would like to see the Mets get there because they haven't been in the World Series in 15 years. And of course, you would like to have a big city team or a big market team, which the Mets are. Even though the budget is like little league, a little league budget. Uh, so fuck you, Wilpots. Uh, they are not going to get that far into the playoffs. I don't expect them to get there. True, I didn't expect them to win the division either, but hopefully they'll do well. Um, and hopefully they do well enough to at least get into the second round, which I like to see them do, because they haven't lost in the first round yet. Uh, you know, of course, they haven't lost yet in the first round, but I expect them to do it this time. So that's my preview of the 2015 National League playoffs. Please click on the video, please rate it, feel free to comment on it. Please subscribe to my channel, please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. And also you can check out all my videos on my YouTube channel and at rowdyc.com. Thanks for watching, catch you next time.